So you've been doing voiceover for a little while. You're not getting the results you hoped for. Should you quit? And how to know when to pack it in? Stay tuned to find out. This is good vodka. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jesse Carroll, professional voice actor and coach, coming in with a hot topic today. When should you quit? Should you quit? So you've been doing voiceover for a little while now and you're not getting the results. And maybe even a coach has told you they think you should quit. What do you do? Should you quit? I actually had a student ask me this recently and I know why they did. Voiceover is not unlike any business or group or scene or community out there. You're going to find a lot of cliquey scenes. You're going to find a lot of bullies, and voiceover is no different. If you're deciding on whether or not you should quit, nobody can answer that for you except you. Not another voice actor, not a client, not a fucking coach. If a coach tells you that they think you should quit, that says more about them than it says about you. It means that they don't have the skills to be able to help you. And yeah, in that case, they did do you a favor. Move on to somebody that can help you. But that doesn't mean you should quit. If somebody tries to stomp on your dreams and tell you should quit, that person is a fucking idiot. Stay the hell away from them. Let me tell you a story about quitting. As some of you know, I've mentioned that I used to be a stand-up comic for a while. I quit. I did stand-up comedy for 10 years. So you can try and find my stuff on the internet. You can't. I took it all down. Some of it is probably kind of offensive by today's standards, so I canceled myself.
Yeah, every time a new copy's invented, a gets a tattoo.
Not overly. I'm not like Jim Jeffries or Bill Burr or anything like that. But also it's a little dated, you know? So I took all my stuff down. But when I started doing stand-up comedy, there was a lot of bullies in stand-up comedy. Some people accepted me in. A lot of people, most people, especially the pros, did their best to keep me out. People wouldn't put me on shows. I was actively told that I should quit and that stand-up comedy isn't for me. Like most beginners, I wasn't very good when I started. I learned the skills as I went, and it took me a long time. From the time I started doing stand-up comedy, it took me about 4 years of doing it night in and night out. 4 years before I got my first paid gig. And I didn't quit. People still continue to tell me to quit. I fucking hate bullies. In my life, whenever somebody tells me to quit, I work extra hard. It is nobody's business telling you when you should quit something. 4 years in, I started working as a stand-up comic. 6, 7 years in, I started putting on some pretty high-level shows with stand-up comedy. And once I started paying other comics, then I started eventually sort of weaving myself into, I don't know, the cool kids scene. And eventually I had this big hairy goal of going to the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. The Melbourne. Australians call it Melbourne. Everybody here, North America, we're going to call it Melbourne, or whoever's watching this. The Melbourne International Comedy Festival, which is the second biggest comedy festival in the world. It's a damn good one. It's damn hard to get into. I didn't have any massive credits. I didn't have any TV credits. It's usually the kind of thing you need to get into something like that. So what I did, despite every professional comedian laughing in my face and telling me there's no way I'm going to get into this festival, I took a chance and went to Australia. I couldn't get a work visa for Australia, so I worked under the table on the side while doing stand-up comedy, trying to understand the scene. I ended up getting a travel visa for New Zealand and started doing comedy over there professionally. And the New Zealand Comedy Festival would not let me in. Said I wasn't good enough. Had people tell me I should quit. I contacted the Melbourne International Comedy Festival over and over and over. Submitted tape after tape after tape after tape. And spoiler alert, I got in, despite everybody telling me it wasn't going to happen. People that I respected, people with popular comedy shows, popular comedy podcasts would tell me, no hope. This isn't for you, kid. Take a hike. I got in. I beat people that were trying to get in that told me I didn't have a chance to get in. That by all purposes were better than me. But I worked my ass off and I got in. And I did that festival. And my first festival went pretty good. I had some friends that helped me get some people into the show. It was difficult. It was one of the harder things I've ever done. But I did it for a month straight. I did a show almost every night of the week. And I got invited back. The Melbourne International Comedy Festival, the one that all the professionals in the business told me I wouldn't be able to get into. I got into it and I got invited back. My second run in Australia the next year, I decided I was going to do the Perth International Fringe, or the Perth Fringe Festival. I did the Adelaide Fringe Festival and then the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, essentially doing doing comedy 6 nights a week for just about 3 months. And that fucking broke me. However, at this point, nobody was telling me I couldn't do it. I was now accepted. I've been doing comedy for a decade and I was doing pretty good, enough to support myself, which is hard to do in comedy. And by the end of that tour, I got a sense of what it was like to have comedy completely as your job. And it was eye-opening. The lifestyle is very, very difficult. You're up late all the time. There's a lot of drinking involved. There doesn't have to be. I enjoyed drinking when I was doing it. You're constantly having to try and promote yourself and get on other shows and write jokes. Anytime I was in the middle of a conversation with somebody else, if I said something funny or made somebody laugh, I'd be like, hold on a second, I have to like get out my phone and start writing all like the jokes in it. It was wearing on me. Comedy wasn't a job. Stand-up comedy was a lifestyle. And at that point, when I realized the reality of it, and this was going to be a thing that wasn't just a job that I did at night, but it encompassed my entire life and who I was. At that point, I decided, you know what? Not somebody else, not somebody outside of me. I decided it was time to pack it in for a bit. So I took a break. I took a break for a month, turned into 2 months, turned into 3 months. I got into on-camera acting. I found voiceover and I never looked back. And that was a point in my life, one of the very rare points, I decided to quit something. And all of the lessons I learned in stand-up comedy carried forward for me. One of the best ones being that if I'm going to quit something, it's going to be me that decides that, not anybody else. I did everything in comedy that nobody thought I had a fucking shot at. So the point being, if you really, really, really want to do voiceover, you really want to do it with all your heart and you're not getting the results you want, fuck it. Keep going. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do this. If you've got it inside you, that's inside you for a reason. You can do this. Go for it. Get the training. If one coach can't help you, get another coach and another and another. Month after month, year after year, until you achieve what you want to do. But be very clear about your goals. Don't let anybody fucking stop you or tell you you can't do it. Go for it. Now, if you do it for a while, you give it everything you got, and then you start doing it professionally, and you decide it takes away from your life and doesn't add to it, and it's a grind, and it's not fun, and you dread going to record your auditions or send out marketing emails or however the fuck you go about doing this. If it's more of a grind and not fun, you might want to look at what your life would look like if you weren't doing it. And I think that's okay. Sometimes we hold on to things because we're stubborn. You know, stand-up comedy was a dream of mine, and I attained it. I didn't get an HBO special. I'm not on Netflix. You can't find a TV special of me, but I did it at a high level for a long time. I decided it wasn't for me. It wasn't fun anymore. It wasn't my cup of tea. And if you find that about voiceover, then, you know, you have my blessing. Pack it in, but not after you really, really give it a shot. Do everything you can, but don't let any fucking person out there tell you that you should pack it in because they don't think you're good enough. I go back to the book I recommended before called Mindset by Carol Dweck. Is it Carol Dweck? I think it's pretty sure it's Carol Dweck. Let's find out. I gotta Google this shit in the middle of a video I'm filming right now. Mindset is by... I got it right. There's two types of people in the world. There are people with a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset are the ones that are more likely to tell you to quit. They think that the abilities that you have are the only abilities you have and you can't grow beyond that. That's what you have. Whereas a growth mindset, those are the kind of people that think they can get better at things. And it's true, you can. Just because, let's say you suck. Let's say you legitimately suck at voiceover. Let's say you're just terrible at it. You're the worst in the world right now. You can get better. Not only can you get better, you can get better than everybody. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. He was told he sucked, that he wasn't good enough. There's countless stories throughout history of people that were told they were no good. Albert Einstein failed math. Just because you're not good at it right now doesn't mean you're not going to be. You just got to put in the effort. In the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers, he talks about, and it's a cliche in society, you got to put 10,000 hours to master something, but you don't need to put in 10,000 hours to get good at something. If you're working at voiceover for, let's say, 20 minutes a day, that's not bad. How much better would you be if you're working at it for 4 hours a day? I work at it 10 hours a day, and it fills me up. I get excited to go to work. Can you put that level of effort in before you quit? You know, I've got some people in my community that sometimes get disheartened because they see a bunch of people that are working all the time and getting results, and they'll say like, you know, I've put in like 100 auditions, I haven't booked a job yet. I'm like, well, put in 200 more. It took me 250 auditions to get my first job when I started. That's a lot. That's more than pretty much everybody I've ever coached. I don't know, like 98% of the people I've coached have booked their first job that didn't have a job before. And I don't think anybody's surpassed 250 yet. But what I'm saying is, a lot of the time, you know, I'll ask people how many auditions they're doing a day or how long they're working at it. They're like, well, last week I was busy, so I couldn't do it. And I couldn't, like, you know, if you want to do something, it's like learning a language, doing voiceover. You can't do it sporadically. Sure, 20 minutes every day, if you do it consistently, that's better than not doing it at all. And it's 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week is better than doing it 4 hours, 1 day a week. You want to do it every day throughout the week. But if you can find a way, and I'm sure you can, to get in 2 hours of practice in a day, you don't even need to have 2 hours worth of auditions. Go to ChatGPT, get it to write you a bunch of scripts, or go to Edge Studios, type in Edge Studio script library, Google it, and that's what it looks like when I Google things. And just start reading all the scripts out loud. Record yourself. Try and get to your natural voice. Don't put on a voice. Sound like you, but the most engaging you. Get with a coach, and don't just do a once a week class. Yes, there's a place for that, but you need to also be working on it outside of class. And don't let anybody tell you that you should quit. That says more about them than about you. It means they don't have what it takes to coach you. They're not a coach, they're a critic. This is good vodka. It's coffee, I swear to God, it's coffee. Another great book I'd recommend is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Halliday. He's a Stoic philosopher, or he studies Stoicism. Anyway, he always gives great lessons from the Stoics back in ancient Roman and Greek times. And he talks about, if I could just boil it down in layman's terms, I'm not as smart as him, I'm not as educated as him, so I'm just going to basically say, if you live your life like anytime you see an obstacle, instead of going around it, you go through it, and you learn the skills you need to get through that obstacle, you are going to grow a bunch while you get through that, and you can be better on the other side. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Halliday. Read it. You'll get a lot more than my shitty metaphor that I just did. Like, basically, yeah. If you see an obstacle, go through it. Brilliant breakdown of the book, Jesse. Anyway, don't quit. Don't quit until you've given it your all, and definitely don't listen if somebody else tells you to quit. And if somebody else tells you to quit, use that as fuel. Anytime anybody's ever told me to quit, told me I couldn't do something, disrespected me, I use that as fuel. I use that as fuel to keep going. You know, I'll be honest, when I started coaching and I started getting on YouTube and all that, I had other coaches that would make fun of me in a cryptic way. They'd say it in their videos and their podcasts. And if you're watching this right now, I saw it. I don't care. I use it as motivation to keep going. And, you know, a year after I started this journey, I've changed people's lives, and that makes me feel great. I've got students that are crushing it right now. I have a student who like kicked the shit out of me last week, booked more than I did, you know, and I'm sure it's going to happen a lot more, and this fills me up. But when people started making fun of me when I started coaching and saying derogatory things about my program, if I would have listened, then you know, I wouldn't have met all these wonderful people that I'm coaching now. I wouldn't have been a part of their journey. I wouldn't have changed anybody's lives. I wouldn't continue to do that. These journeys you're on these alone, which is a good thing. Don't be in it to impress anyone. Don't be in it to get validation. Be in it because you love it. And because challenge is good. Challenge is fun. There's nothing better to me when somebody like makes fun of me or bullies me or tells me I can't do something or tells me I suck or my program sucks or my voice acting sucks. Nothing better than proving them wrong. It makes me want to get better and push me forward. It's the best form of revenge, success. I don't encourage revenge, but if you're going to do it, make it happen through success. So when somebody tells you to quit, prove them wrong. Keep working, prove them wrong. And again, unless voiceover takes away from you. If you don't enjoy it, if you're doing it because you think it's an easy way to make money, which it can be if you love it, you know, they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I talk about voiceover being easy for me, which it has been since the start, but I also love it. And when I tell people the amount of auditions I do and the amount of work I put in, they go, what the fuck? I thought you said it was easy. Yeah, working 10, 12 hours a day on something you love is easy. For me, it is. It's given me an incredible lifestyle, and I'm extremely grateful for it. And I'm extremely grateful for you all watching this video. We're gonna wrap it up now. Thank you so much. We're at 7,000 subscribers now and growing rapidly. Couldn't have done it without you. So if you got value out of this video, please share with someone that might get some value out of it as well. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when the next video is coming out. And if you're interested in doing voiceover, check the links below. I have 2 programs. One is my VoiceOver community, which is a wonderful community of like-minded individuals. And if you've got a pretty good start at VoiceOver, that might be the option for you. You get direct access to me. We've got Dave Beeson as a resident coach. I teach a class every week. We do challenges, all kinds of fun stuff to help you get further in your VoiceOver career. It's just a one-time monthly payment. Well, not one time, every month. It's a monthly payment. There's nothing behind paywalls. You don't have to pay extra for any of the content in the community. You just sign up, you're in. And I have the VoiceOver Jumpstart course. If you're brand new and you're like, oh my God, I gotta get a studio gear, all that stuff, and you want to have all the information that's in my head and put it in your head, and you also get lifetime membership to the community with the Jumpstart course as well. Hit me up in the links below. There's a link to book a one-on-one 15-minute call with me. We'll talk about it, see if I can help you. If not, maybe I can point you in the right direction. That's it. That's all. That was my rant. Don't quit. Keep going. Fuck anybody that tells you to quit. Like, not literally, Anyway, thank you for watching. Keep going. Don't let anyone tell you that. Don't let anyone stop you from doing this. You can do this. Keep going. You got this. Don't quit. See you in the next one. Peace.
That's a sick beard, bro. Were you a Melbourne hipster before, or you're in the middle stage? I got a buddy back home who just he got the glasses more thick rim than yours, and then he started growing a beard a bit, and then the buttons just got higher and higher and higher until they were done all the way, and then he got a wooden watch, and we were like, fuck, here we go. Tattoos everywhere. Got a job as a barista. That's the only time I want to see a hipster is when he's actually making my coffee. You have to seek those people out, man. They're so good. The longer the beard, the better the coffee skills, I'm telling you, right? And those aren't tattoos, those are badges. Yeah, every time a new coffee's invented, a hipster gets a tattoo, so.